We hope you've seen the first half of today's video. If not, you can search it as Top 10 Most Wealthiest People Through History. Welcome to Luxury Fountain. Don't forget to hit that like button, turn on that notification bell, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos. Without further ado, let's continue on with our list at number 5. John D. Rockefeller, $400 billion. Even if good old Jeff is currently the richest American, he still has a long way to go to surpass the richest American of all time. You should be familiar with John D. Rockefeller since he was an oil billionaire with an estimated $400 billion in wealth. In 1870, he formed the Standard Oil Company, which soon saw its worth soar. 90% of the oil in the US was formerly under Standard Oil Company's control. His personal fortune grew to the point that it represented 2% of the country's GDP. Rockefeller led a lavish lifestyle thanks to all of his wealth. He has properties all around the country. Most notably, he was the owner of Kaikwit, a 40-room mansion with vistas of New York City that took 6 years to build and housed collections of Chinese ceramics and 20th century art. However, Kaikwit wasn't the end. The house was located on the Pocantico estate, which later became famous. The 3,510-acre estate featured 75 homes, 70 roads, 9 holes of reverse golf, multiple outdoor swimming pools, a full-sized bowling alley, billiards rooms, a farm, and gardens of its own. Most people didn't like Rockefeller, but as he got older, he really upped his philanthropic game. He gave to charity 10% of his annual income. Number 4. Akbar the First. In the 1500s, Akbar the First had a sizable empire and a considerable riches. He was reportedly worth more than $500 billion according to some estimates. He had governing and conquest in his blood as a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. From the moment he ascended to the throne, he put great effort into expanding his realm. By the end of his reign, the Mughal Empire, which he tripled in size, covered all of modern-day India and northern Afghanistan. He was well recognized for his tolerance of all religions, which was practically unheard of at that time. Despite being Muslim, many of his closest advisors and allies among city's authorities were Hindu. He actively contributed to the unification of two religions and the establishment of religious freedom. He was well recognized for his assistance in the translation of Hindu literature and even participated actively in Hindu festivities. Although his fortune was considerable, little is known about how it was used. For many years, his empire possessed 25% of the global GDP. Beautiful carvings, miniature paintings, and highly rare furnishings were ordered for his palace. Number 3. Augustus Cesar. He is the only known trillionaire who possesses a fifth of the Roman Empire's wealth, which at the time represented 30% of the global GDP. The majority of experts concur that his net worth was over $4.3 trillion. In addition to the wealth that his role as emperor brought, a large portion of his wealth was inherited. He got 75% of Julius Caesar's fortune, and while no one knows precisely how much that is, Julius was known to have left 300 sesterces to every Roman citizen upon his death. At the time, $300 was equivalent to 4 months' worth of income, so it scarcely made a dent in his budget. But Julius wasn't the only one who offered Augustus money. A number of affluent families were also known to bequeath the emperor a portion of their inheritance in the hopes that it would ensure the political safety of their own offspring. A standing army, police, and fire departments, a messenger system, and highways were all established during his 40-year prosperous rule, thereby bringing Rome into the modern era. He also doubled the extent of the Roman Empire. He resided in a palace that is now known as the Augustus House throughout his lifetime. The home of Augustus reportedly had entire rooms devoted to art and weapons, and frescoes were painted on every wall and floor. One of the last things he said before he passed away was, "I found Rome of clay. I leave it to you of marble." Indeed, under his leadership, the empire enjoyed peace and prosperity for 200 years. Number 2. Shenzhang of Song. The second place finisher on our list for the richest individual in history is also one of the most enigmatic. From 1067 through 1085, Shenzhang of Song ruled. This occurred when China was incredibly wealthy and rich. They were the best bronzeware producers in the world, and farmers were given the freedom to possess their own land. They became an economic superpower as their output of rice surged and became a staple food. Additionally, at this time, gunpowder, printing, and magnetic compasses were developed. The Song dynasty established the first navy and printed the first piece of paper money in history. They were able to protect their merchandise by defending their trade routes, thanks to the navy. With all this invention, Shenzhang had enormous power over the currency, and the Emperor Shenzhang had a 30% share of the world's GDP. His fortune has been referred to as immeasurable. Specialists are aware that it is in the trillions of dollars, but it is difficult to estimate. A large portion of his financial success can be traced to the fact that he established an enhanced tax base hundreds of years before governments in Europe. Shenzhang was noted for being generous despite his affluence. He is regarded as an innovator of the contemporary welfare system. His policies helped the homeless, unemployed, and peasants in a significant way. Number 1. Mansa Musa. You might not be familiar with the richest individual in human history, but after reading this, you won't. Mansa Musa possessed a fortune so huge and opulent that contemporary historians are unable to comprehend how much he actually owned. He carried thousands of pounds of gold through Africa on zebras, but to him, that was just pocket change. When his predecessor vanished while looking for the westernmost point of the Atlantic Ocean in the early 1300s, he took over as the monarch of the Mali Empire. His predecessor would have had a fairly amazing existence if he could have just stayed on shore. The Great Famine, civil wars, and the Black Death reduced all of Europe's kingdoms to their knees at a time when it was struggling greatly. Mali, though Mansa Musa's rule was doing very well. The two most significant products at the time were salt and gold, and it was the world's largest producer of both. Within the first several years of his rule, Mansa Musa seized 24 cities and the neighborhoods around them, but he remained cut off from the rest of the world. In the Middle East, not even Egypt knew anything about him. But when Mansa Musa set out on his pilgrimage to Mecca, everything changed. The pilgrimage was a significant aspect of his Muslim faith. He traveled 4,000 miles to Mecca with tens of thousands of warriors, slaves, and heralds in tow. Each person held a gold staff and wore Persian silk. Hundreds of pounds of gold were brought by camels and horses. At least 80 camels, each weighing between 50 and 300 pounds, were present. He frequently overspent in city and even gave gifts of gold. Al-Nasir the Sultan offered him the opportunity to visit his palace after learning he was on his way to Cairo. Mansa Musa initially refused, but after further urgings, he accepted. Mansa Musa initially resisted giving his foot a kiss, which was a traditional show of respect at the time, but he soon gave in. Al-Nasir made him a night's accommodation recommendation. Few people would easily forget his stay in Cairo, but by the time he departed, the streets were lined with gold, and the people were relishing in the prosperity he had lavished upon them. Giving the fortune, however, became problematic. His gifts caused the value of metal to decline, and it would take 12 years for Cairo, Medina, and Mecca to regain their financial stability. According to legend, he contributed for the construction of a mosque every single Friday while making the arduous journey to Mecca. He devoted himself to his religion and studied for 4 days straight after arriving in Mecca. Upon his return, he started work on constructing palaces, mosques and universities across his realm. He built the renowned institution and university known as Sankore Madrasa. Millions of manuscripts were held at the university, rivaling even the Library of Alexandria. Unfortunately, the Mali Empire started to crumble not long after Mansa Musa passed away. Constant civil war weakened the nation and started to reduce its trading power. By the 1600s, European towns were invading Mali to take advantage of its resources. The rest is history. That finishes our list of the top 10 wealthiest individuals in history. Do you believe Jeff Bezos will surpass them? Or will Mansa Musa continue his reign in the top spot? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the section below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to Luxury Fountain if you liked the video. We're hoping to see you in our future video.